So Edgar Berlanga gets the first round knockout against Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz in a fight that you really don't learn anything. Berlanga, of course, is coming off of the Canelo loss where he went the entire fight and kind of has treated that as a moral victory. So the question is, what's next for Edgar Berlanga? There's a lot of options that he's even thrown out himself. But to be completely honest, there's only one fight that makes sense and the people want. That's a fight with Caleb Plant. For Berlanga, he gets this knockout in a fight that doesn't teach me or give the audience anything to go off of. It was a one-round fight. Of course, he got the knockout against a guy who, honestly, it was the definition of a mismatch. If it went longer than 3 rounds, then that was going to be awful for Berlanga, okay? So he gets the business. He completes the business. He had talked about how this date was going to be a tune-up fight. It was a tune-up fight, but a tune-up fight in which Berlanga missed weight. Came in, I believe, 169.6 or over 169 when the fight was obviously 168. Undisciplined, it seemed like Berlanga came in. I mean, you got to remember, this guy is celebrating all after going the distance with Canelo and then comes in overweight in his next fight. It's unprofessional. But for him, is it something that he has to be fighting top competition to get to that level? That might be exactly what he wants to say, because obviously he's coming off the Canelo loss. He got the Canelo payday. He's got a sense of the bright lights, was in Vegas, headlined in Vegas. He wants to get back to that. He threw out 4 names after the fight: Jaime Munguia, Jermall Charlo, Caleb Plant, and of course a Canelo rematch. Let's go through those 4 real quick. Jaime Munguia, not happening soon because Munguia, I believe, is having a rematch with Spruce. I believe that's the name of the French guy who knocked him out. I don't like Berlanga calling that out either because of the fact that Munguia just got knocked out. Okay? Jermall Charlo. Who knows if Charlo's ever getting back in the ring again? Will occasionally post videos. We don't know what's going up with Jermall Charlo. In fact, he should have already fought Caleb Plant for slapping him back in 2023, but that hasn't happened. Been in the ring 1 time since then. Who knows what's going on with Charlo? Name drops Caleb Plant. We're going to get to that one because, of course, that's the fight that needs to happen next. And then, of course, he wants the Canelo rematch. Come on, that's not happening anytime soon. So Caleb Plant, this is where we're at. Berlanga versus Caleb Plant needs to happen. No ifs, ands, or buts for both guys' career. It needs to happen. More so Edgar's and not Caleb's. Caleb's good. Caleb has been stamped. He is stamped for a guy who's dodged no smoke, invited the smoke, obviously lost to Canelo, lost to Benavidez, knockout of the year against Anthony Durrell back in 2022, I want to say. Caleb Plant, there's nothing in his career which fans are going to turn against him. Caleb, I think, is one of the most liked boxers. I think people all around like Caleb Plant, and boxers themselves always talk about how great of a person Caleb Plant is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about the popularity of Caleb Plant. And the dude is a stand-up dude, what it seems from the outside. Berlanga, he's a guy that's going to get you going. He can't stand Plant. Him and Plant have going back and forth. In fact, when he missed weight, Plant was just tweeting, posting on Instagram, all different memes. Not even memes, but just things talking about Berlanga missing weight. Plant desperately wants a big fight as well. He's called out Charlo after slapping Charlo. He's called him out. He of course, wants a Canelo rematch eventually at 68. He wouldn't mind a Benavidez rematch at 68, even though Benavidez is up at 75. He was talking about Munguia as well. He wants the big fights. Plant is no stranger to wanting the big fights. So here's the thing. I don't think either fighter doesn't want the fight to happen. It's now or never, really. Berlanga was asked about it afterwards. Who do you want to fight? I mentioned the 4 names he rattled off. And then Eddie Hearn, his promoter, we'll talk about in a second, for this past fight, talked about, hey, the Plant fight's great. That's going to be one to sell, which is completely true. That's one that will completely sell. The press conferences would be elite. These guys would be going back and forth, and it would be an entertaining fight. Edgar grabbed the mic, started an F Plant chant going. Granted, it seemed like nobody in the arena caught on to it. Caleb posted the video afterwards and kind of just laughed at him. Because, again, Edgar's called out these other other four guys, including Plant. It's only Plant. That's the only fight that needs to happen because, again, these press conferences would be incredible. But I think the fight itself is interesting because while I do think I'd pick Plant to win that fight, I think he could really box really well against Edgar. The power Berlanga has is, to a degree, legit. I think he has good enough power. And we've seen in situations Caleb not being a great second half fighter. That could play a factor in their fight. And hey, Caleb versus Trevor McCumbee wasn't supposed to be a good fight as it was, but it was. Caleb got dropped. Granted, it wasn't a hard drop, but he got up, he rallied, and he put on a show. And I believe that might have been the fight of the night, if I remember, on that Canelo Berlanga card. So at the end of the day, these two guys, when they get in the ring, it's going to be just as good, I believe, as out of the ring, because you also mix real hatred in. I think you're going to get good results in the ring. The interesting part about this is the business aspect. I mentioned Eddie Hearn. Edgar Berlanga's a free agent. He was not happy being on the undercard of this fight. Also, he was the co-main after coming off headlining Vegas with Canelo Alvarez. He wasn't happy with that. Eddie Hearn talked about it's business. He doesn't understand it. It's business. Why would I waste all my money for a guy who's on his last fight and I don't know if he's re-signing? So for Berlanga, here's the options. Re-sign with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. How strained is that relationship? He talked about in the Canelo build-up how he was grateful for Eddie for making the fight. Can they repair that relationship? And can they sign a contract extension? Top Rank. I believe Edgar was with Top Rank to start his career. Doubt he's going back there. Golden Boy. I can only imagine Oscar De La Hoya had some things to say about Berlanga when it came time for Canelo versus Berlanga, going at Berlanga. So who knows if he even wants to go to Golden Boy, if he has hard feelings towards Oscar because of comments Oscar might have made during those times. And then PBC, which I think would be the right decision for Edgar, considering you make the Plant fight there. You can make a Charlo fight there. Granted, who knows if Charlo's getting back to fight, but Charlo is with PBC. For PBC, I think it would be a no-brainer. You sign him to a 1-2 fight deal. No one's going to go long-term with Berlanga, though. And that might be something he's looking for a longer term. Nobody's going to go with that because we don't know necessarily what his skills are. Obviously, against the elite at 168, Canelo, he was outclassed. He's beat up on guys that really have no status at 168. So what about these guys not at the super elite, but in that range? I'd consider Caleb Plant a level below Canelo, right? Before that fight, you don't really know what Edgar is. So nobody's going to want to give him a long-term contract. They'd want to sign him for a fight or two. For PBC, I think that'd be perfect for them. You do that, you're going to make that money back with a fight against Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's talked about he wants that fight. I think you make that fight, that deal with Berlanga, then you make that fight, you make your money back. Or is Eddie thinking the same thing? Because that's the fight Eddie was talking about in the post-fight interview. He wants the Plant fight. He sees dollar signs with that fight. I think for Berlanga, easier to go with PBC under one promoter. If you can make up with Eddie Hearn and everything goes smoothly, hey, you can stay with Matchroom and make that Plant fight. Either way, the question is clear. One fight needs to be made for Edgar Berlanga. No more of these tomato cans, these dudes who come in looking like your local guy off the corner. No. It needs to be Caleb Plant, and Caleb Plant is down for it. So there need to be no excuses. Plant versus Berlanga needs to be next. Comment below in the comments if you agree with me, or is there somebody else you want Edgar Berlanga to fight? Let me know. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Never Drop podcast. I got all your boxing news and information coming to you live here. I'm Luke Backman, and that's all I got for you today. Peace. I'm out.